The night should have felt warm. Music floated across the backyard, soft and distant, drifting over the glowing pool as if the world were wrapped in a summer evening. But she stood at the edge alone, arms wrapped around herself, breath misting in the air. Something about tonight felt wrong. Too quiet, too cold, too watchful. She glanced back at the house, lights flashing through tall windows, guests laughing, and silhouettes dancing. Nobody noticed her slip away. Nobody ever really did. Her fingers brushed the surface of the pool, and she gasped. It wasn't warm. It was freezing, ice cold, completely wrong for a heated estate pool. A chill crawled over her skin, slow and uneasy. She took one step back. Then, a shove, a sharp jolt between her shoulders. A startled cry was lost in her throat, and the world vanished beneath her. The cold hit like a fist. Not water, not liquid, but knives. Her lungs seized. Her body convulsed. The shock swallowed her whole before she even understood she was sinking. She tried to kick, tried to reach up, tried to scream. Nothing worked. The water dragged her down like a hand tightening around her ankle. The party lights, above, blurred into a smear of colors, shrinking, disappearing entirely as darkness thickened around her. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, wild and useless. This is how it ends, she thought. Not with drama, not with anyone caring. Alone, cold, forgotten. Her chest burned. The pressure behind her eyes throbbed. Her fingers, numb and stiff, clawed weakly at the water as if she could fight it. Then, a splash, deep, heavy, controlled. Not like a guest stumbling drunkenly, like someone who chose to jump. Strong arms closed around her, pulling her upward with a force that cut through the cold, like heat. She couldn't see his face, just the outline of a broad chest, the warmth of skin, against her frozen body, and the deep rumble of a voice she couldn't understand, through the water. Then air hit her face. She was hauled out of the pool like she weighed nothing. Her back met solid ground, a palm pressed against her sternum. Fingertips brushed her cheek. She coughed. Water, spilling from her lips, her chest heaving in painful jolts. "Stay with me." The voice was low, commanding, rough in a way that didn't scare her, but anchored her. She blinked up at him. The world was blurry and spinning, but she could make out the dark outline of a man, kneeling over her. Broad shoulders, a hard jaw, eyes that burned even in the shadows. He shrugged off his jacket and wrapped it around her trembling body in one swift, decisive motion. His hands were warm, too steady. No one should feel this sure while she is shaking like a leaf. "Breathe," he said quietly. "You're safe. Safe." The word didn't fit him. Not with the way he held her like he was assessing every detail. Not with the silent storm behind his stare. Not with the tension in his jaw, the fury simmering under his breath, as if he was imagining killing whoever pushed her. She didn't know him. She had never seen him before. Yet he looked at her like he'd been searching for her for years. Her lips moved uselessly. Who are you?" He didn't answer. Instead, he lifted her effortlessly into his arms. She let out a tiny gasp, half fear, half relief, as her head rested against his chest. The warmth of him seeped into her bones, thawing the cold like sunlight breaking through frost. "You're freezing," he murmured. "I've got you." His voice was the last thing she heard before her eyes slipped shut again. Confident, calm, possessive. A man who didn't sound like a guest. A man who sounded like danger. A man who had just saved her life. Warmth. That was the first thing she felt when she woke. Warmth pressed against her skin, wrapped around her like a cocoon. For a heartbeat, she thought she was still dreaming, drifting somewhere between sleep and the memory of freezing water closing over her head. Then the world sharpened. A fire crackled softly nearby. A heavy jacket, his jacket, was draped over her. Shoulders smelling faintly of dark cologne, smoke, and something sharp she couldn't name. She was lying on a plush leather sofa in a dimly lit lounge overlooking the estate's garden. Her breath hitched as the memories rushed back. The cold, the panic, the hands pulling her out. The voice, deep, steady, impossible to ignore. She sat up too fast. Easy. The word rolled through the room like velvet dipped in steel. He was there, standing against the far wall, half hidden in shadow, arms crossed over a broad chest. His body was relaxed, but his eyes were locked onto her like she was both a mystery and a problem he needed to solve. She swallowed. You saved me. He didn't move, didn't nod, didn't take credit. He simply said, "You shouldn't have been alone near the pool." The statement hit her strangely, less like an observation, more like a reprimand. "I didn't know it was that cold," she whispered. "I didn't even know someone was behind me." His jaw tightened, just barely. "As I said," he murmured, "you shouldn't have been alone." She tried to look away, but his stare held her, heavy and unblinking. He wasn't a man used to repeating himself, or being questioned. She wrapped the jacket tighter around her. "Who are you?" A pause, long enough to be deliberate. "No one you need to worry about." That was not reassuring. "Then why am I here?" she asked. He finally pushed off the wall. Slowly, controlled. Every movement precise, as if he'd learned long ago that power lived in stillness. The closer he came, the smaller the room felt until his shadow brushed over her like a cloak. He stopped just inches away. "You were unconscious," he said. "Freezing. You needed warmth." His gaze drifted over. Her face, not in a hungry way, but in a searching, calculating way. "So I brought you inside." Her pulse fluttered. "You didn't have to do that." Something flashed in his eyes. Annoyance? Amusement? She couldn't tell. "I couldn't leave you there." He said it low, almost under his breath, as if the words meant more than he wanted them to. She watched him, uncertain. Everything about him felt contradictory. Cold voice, warm hands, dangerous presence, gentle actions, distance in his tone, intensity in his stare. He folded his arms again, gaze pinned to her like he was reading every thought she didn't say aloud. "You should drink something hot," he said. "You're still shaking." She glanced at her hands. They were trembling slightly. "That's normal after hypothermia," she murmured. His brow lifted. "You think that was hypothermia?" "I can't feel my fingers," she admitted. "I can see that." She froze, realizing something. He had been watching her hands, watching her carefully, watching everything. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she whispered. His answer came instantly. "Because you almost died." Her breath caught. "And," he added, voice dropping to a quiet intensity that slid under her skin. "Because I don't like when something I'm holding slips away." She blinked. "Something you're holding?" But he didn't clarify. Didn't step closer. Didn't step back. He simply let the words hang in the air between them, heavy, unsettling, strangely comforting. Then the door creaked open and a guard peeked in. "Boss!" The man shot him a look that could freeze fire. The guard swallowed hard. "Sorry, sir. Didn't know you were occupied." "Boss?" Her stomach dropped. She turned back toward the man who had saved her. But he was already watching her reaction, already knowing what she'd realized, already aware that the truth had slipped out. He was no guest, no passerby, no random hero. He was the one who ran this entire estate, the one people called boss. And for reasons she didn't understand yet, he was very, very focused on her. Silence thickened the room after the guard slipped out, leaving the door to close with a hesitant click. She stared at the man in front of her, the boss, trying to reconcile the warmth of the hands that pulled her from the water with the cold authority in his eyes now. He didn't look away, didn't soften, didn't pretend her realization surprised him. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, studying her reaction with a patience that felt far too intentional. "You look scared," he said quietly. "I'm not," she lied. One of his brows lifted, just enough to say he didn't believe her for a second. "You shouldn't be afraid of me." "People don't usually say that," she muttered. "At least, not people like you." A faint exhale, almost a laugh, almost a warning, left him. "People like me? You know exactly what I mean." He stepped closer, slow enough that she saw every detail sharpen in the firelight, the hardness in his jaw, the shadows clinging to the edges of his cheekbones, the faint scar near his collar, and the storm behind his dark eyes. The kind of storm men like him didn't admit existed. "I saved your life," he reminded her softly. "Try not to put me in the same category as the people who try to end them." Her heart skipped, not because of the words, but because of the quiet conviction in them, like he was making a promise, not a defense. She glanced down, fingers tightening on the jacket still wrapped around her. Well, thank you, really. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't. Her breath caught as she moved, just slightly, shifting the jacket. The sleeve slipped, down her shoulder, revealing a patch of pale skin still tinged faint blue from the cold. He saw it. His gaze flicked there, sharp and unguarded, a flash of something fierce tightening his expression. Something protective. Something that looked like anger but didn't feel like it. Was meant for her. He reached out, slow enough that she could stop him, fast enough that she didn't have time to second-guess it. His fingers brushed her shoulder, warming the chilled skin. Whoever pushed you, his voice dropped to a dark whisper. They're going to regret it. Her breath trembled. Not because of fear, because of the intensity in his tone. The certainty. The quiet fury of a man who never made threats he didn't intend to carry out. I don't even know who it was, she said. It could have been an accident. It could have been... It wasn't. The interruption was sharp, absolutely. You don't fall like that, he said. You don't hit the water that way unless someone wanted you under. The room felt smaller. His closeness felt heavier. And yet she didn't move away. Why do you care so much? She whispered. You don't even know me. His fingers stilled on her shoulder. Maybe I don't, he said. But I watched you disappear under that water like someone was trying to erase you. And something in me... His jaw clenched. Something in me didn't accept it. Before she could answer, she shifted to sit upright, and her face brushed his. Not fully, barely, just her lips grazing the edge of his cheekbones as she turned. A mistake, an accident. Yet the world froze. He stiffened, breath catching in a way she had never imagined a man like him could. His hand tightened slightly on her shoulder, not pulling, not pushing, just anchoring. Himself. Her eyes widened. I didn't mean to... He exhaled, a slow, deep breath that trembled with something he couldn't hide. You shouldn't do that, he said. Do what? His eyes met hers, dark, burning, unsettled. Make me feel something I don't want to feel. The words landed between them like a confession he never thought he'd speak aloud. Her heartbeat pounded. It was an accident. Maybe. His gaze drifted to her lips for the briefest moment. Or maybe you have no idea what you're doing to me. Heat flushed through her chest. She swallowed, unsure whether to pull away or lean. Closer. Unsure why her body felt so warm when her mind was still thawing from the cold. He stepped back at last, jaw tight, composure cracking at the edges. Careful, he murmured, because I don't lose control, ever. But tonight, because of her, he just had... For a long moment, neither of them spoke. He stood there, breathing slowly, jaw set like he was trying to rebuild every wall she'd accidentally cracked. She sat on the sofa clutching his jacket, the firelight warming her, chilled skin while his presence created a very different kind of heat. Finally, he said, You should rest. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an order wrapped in softness he wasn't used to giving. I can't rest, she whispered. Not until I know what's going on. Not until I know who you really are. He didn't respond. Not with words. Not with even a twitch of an expression. He simply turned away as if the conversation were over. But the universe had other plans. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Confident. Heavy. A second guard stepped. Through the doorway. This one older, broader, carrying a tablet in one hand and tension in the other. Sir, the guard said, we traced the pool incident. The man lifted a single finger, silencing him instantly. The guard swallowed and nodded. Understood, boss. She froze. Boss. There it was again. But this time, the guard said it with the kind of fear people reserved for men who didn't forgive mistakes. The guard turned, finally seeing her awake. His expression shifted. Respectful, almost. Cautious, as if she were sitting beside a sleeping predator. Should I finish the report outside, sir? The guard asked. No, the man replied, tone collected but razor sharp. Leave it on my desk, and lock. The East Wing. No one enters without my approval. Understood. The guard left. The door clicked shut. Silence returned. She stared at the man in front of her, heart thundering. I heard him. He called you. Yes, he cut in. So you're... Yes. She blinked. You're the Mafia boss, aren't you? A beat. 2. He turned to face her fully, the firelight catching the edges of his features, outlining the truth she hadn't been able to name before. I run this estate, he said evenly. This family, this territory. His gaze lowered, softened. And now, it seems I've saved you. Her breath shook. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were already shaking from the cold, he said. You didn't need to shake. From fear, too. Fear. That wasn't what she felt when she looked at him. Not exactly. Something deeper. Something hotter. Something that should have scared her but didn't. You knew I would react, she whispered. I knew you'd look at me differently. He stepped closer. And I didn't want that. Not tonight. Their eyes locked. She swallowed. And now? He exhaled, slow and honest. Now you know. Her pulse drummed in her ears. Knowing who you are makes what you did for me feel even more confusing. What did I do? He asked. You saved me. You carried me. You wrapped me in your jacket like you cared. A flicker of something. Surprise, frustration, longing crossed his expression. I don't care easily, he said. I don't care about many things at all. But you care about me? He clenched his jaw. A muscle jumped in his cheek. That's the problem, he said quietly. I shouldn't. The room seemed to hold its breath. Why? She whispered. Because when I care, I protect. His gaze darkened. And when I protect, I don't allow danger anywhere near what's mine. Her lungs tightened. I'm not yours. No. His voice simmered. Not yet. She stood slowly, legs shaky but determined. The jacket slid down her arm again, and his eyes followed the motion like gravity. You can't just decide something like that, she said. I barely know you. And yet, he murmured, you're standing close enough to feel my breath. She hadn't even realized she'd stepped closer until she felt the warmth radiating off him. He lowered his voice. Tell me the truth. Does knowing who I am make you want to run? She shook her head. No. Good, he whispered, leaning just enough that his shadow wrapped around her. Because the moment I saw you sink beneath that water, something in me made a choice. What choice? A slow inhale, a quiet confession. I don't lose people, ever. His gaze pinned her in place. And I'm not losing you. She wasn't sure when her legs started trembling again, whether from the cold memory of the pool or the heat of the man standing inches away from her. Every breath felt heavier, thicker, tangled somewhere between fear and something far more dangerous. He watched her carefully, like he was reading every heartbeat, every hesitation, every secret she hadn't spoken aloud. You should sit, he murmured. I'm fine. You're not. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. Authority lived in the quiet of it, curled beneath every syllable like a warning and a promise. Still, she drew in a breath and straightened her spine. You said you don't lose people, she said, steadying her voice. But we barely know each other. You can't just decide I'm something you have to keep. His jaw tightened, not in anger, but in something sharper. I don't decide, he said. I react. And tonight, I reacted to you. You reacted because I almost drowned. No, he whispered, stepping closer. I reacted because something about you pulled me. And before you hit the water, her breath faltered. That makes no sense. It does to me. She tried to look away, but he angled her chin back gently with 2 fingers. The touch wasn't forceful, but it wasn't avoidable either. Her stomach fluttered at the unexpected tenderness. You don't understand something, he said quietly. When I brought you inside, when I wrapped you in my jacket, when I watched you breathe again. His voice dipped. I didn't feel relief. I felt possessive. Her pulse thudded. Possessive of what? His eyes lowered to her lips for half a second before he looked back up. Of you. How can you be possessive of someone you just met? She whispered. Because some instincts don't ask for permission. The air between them charged, warm and unsteady. She stepped back, needing space, only to feel the sofa behind her knees. He didn't. Move closer. But the room felt smaller anyway, his presence stretching into every corner. Listen, she said, trying to sound firm. I'm grateful you saved me, but that doesn't mean I belong to you. A shadow crossed his expression. Hurt, barely perceptible, but real. I didn't say you belonged to me. He paused. I said I protect what I care about. And whether you like it or not, I care that someone tried to drown you. Her chest tightened. You don't know that for sure. Yes, I do. He walked past her, not away, but toward the table where the guard had dropped the tablet. He picked it up, his expression darkening as he scanned whatever information glowed across the screen. She swallowed. What did they find? He didn't look up. Not yet, but we will. We? He turned then, meeting her eyes with a certainty that made her stomach flip. Yes, we. That's not your choice, she protested. He set the tablet down, walked back toward her, and stopped close enough that she felt the heat radiating off him. Every nerve in her body lit up. You were targeted, he said quietly. And until I know by whom and why, you're not walking around this house alone. Her breath caught. Are you seriously assigning guards to me? Yes. You can't do that. I already did. She stared at him, stunned. You don't get to control my life. He leaned in, not touching her, but close enough that she felt the gravity of him. I'm not controlling your life, he murmured. I'm keeping you alive. She exhaled shakily. Why? Why do you even care this much? His voice dropped to a soft, dangerous confession. Because the moment your lips brushed my skin, something in me changed. Heat spread across her cheeks. That was an accident. Maybe. His eyes darkened. But I don't care what started it. I care about what it awakened. She swallowed. And what did it awaken? He reached up slowly, brushing a strand of damp hair from her cheek. A need, he whispered. A fix on you, a pull I can't ignore. Her heart pounded. You don't get to run from me now, he added gently. Not when someone out there wants you gone. She opened her mouth to argue, but he stepped back, breaking the moment with a sharp inhale. Get some rest, he said, voice steadier. Tomorrow we find answers. She watched him walk away, every step sending a strange ache through her chest. Because she realized something terrifying. She wasn't sure she wanted to run. Morning arrived far too quickly. She woke with a start, heart thudding as sunlight streamed through tall curtains. For a moment she forgot where she was, forgot the cold pool, the weightless sinking, and the strong hands pulling her up. But then she felt the warmth of the room, smelled faint, cologne lingering in the air, and remembered everything. She was still in his estate, still wrapped in the aftermath of a night she couldn't make sense of. She pushed herself upright in the massive guest bed he insisted she use. A soft blanket slid down her legs. He'd carried her here after she fell asleep. She didn't remember the moment, only the sensation of warmth and safety. Like drifting in a steady pair of arms. She touched her cheek and almost laughed at herself. Get it together. He's the Mafia boss. Not a crush. A knock sounded at the door before she could fully stand. Come in, she said hesitantly. The door opened and a woman in a crisp uniform stepped inside, holding a tray. Good morning, she said with a polite smile. The boss asked me to bring this to you. Breakfast, tea, and warm clothes. Her stomach twisted. Not from fear, but from the way the word boss always carried a gravity she didn't know how to handle. Thank you, she said. The woman glanced her over as she set the tray down. He also asked me to inform you that he's waiting in the atrium whenever you're ready. Her breath caught. Waiting for me? The woman hesitated, then nodded. He said you're not to walk anywhere, unaccompanied today. A chill traveled down her spine, part anxiety, part something much hotter. Why? She asked softly. The woman gathered her hands in front of her. Because the pool was not an accident. Her heart dropped. Do they know who it was? No, not yet. The woman's eyes softened. But the boss will. He doesn't let threats live long. The words should have terrified her. Strangely, they didn't. After the woman left, she dressed in the warm clothes provided, a soft sweater and fitted pants that felt too comfortable to belong here. She brushed her hair, took a steadying breath, and stepped into the hallway. 2 guards stood outside her door. Her step faltered. Hi. They nodded once. We're to escort you. She still wasn't used to the idea of needing protection. She still didn't know how she'd become the center of this storm. They walked her through long hallways until they reached a sun-filled atrium. Glass, walls, marble floors, towering plants. And he stood there, back toward her, hands clasped behind him, shoulders broad and rigid. He turned the moment she entered. His gaze swept over her, fast, controlled, assessing everything from her posture to the shadows under her eyes. You slept, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes, she replied softly. I think I did. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. Good. Silence stretched. She finally asked, Did you find anything about last night? His jaw tightened, the faintest crack in his calm. Not yet, but we traced the security. Footage. Someone cut the cameras in that part of the yard. Her stomach twisted. Cut them, why? To hide what they planned to do. He held her gaze, serious. You weren't supposed to get back up. Her breath shook. Do you think it was meant for me? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached out, gently brushing his thumb, across a fading bruise on her arm where the pool's edge had struck her. The touch was careful, too careful for a man like him. Whoever it was, he said, voice low, I'm going to find them. Her pulse raced. And then? His eyes darkened. Then they'll understand what happens when someone touches what I protect. Protect, she echoed softly. Yes, she swallowed. And you're protecting me because... He stepped even closer, close enough that she felt the warmth of his breath on her forehead, close enough to smell the faint scent of smoke and cold night air clinging to him. Because I can't stop thinking about you, he said. Because last night wasn't just a rescue, it was a warning. A warning of what? That you're in my world now, he murmured. And I don't let go. Her heartbeat thundered. And you don't want to run, he added quietly. She froze. Who said that? He gave a slow, knowing smile, dark, warm, and dangerous. Your eyes, he whispered. They already made the choice. She should have been able to breathe by now. But every time Elena replayed that night, his arms around her, the pool water slipping, off her skin, his voice low and furious in her ear, something inside her tightened. Instead, Dante had saved her, but he hadn't let her go. Tonight she would understand why. The mansion felt different the moment she stepped inside. The staff avoided her eyes. The halls were quieter than usual, and the sharp scent of Dante's cologne lingered far, too strongly in the air, like he'd just walked through, like he was still watching. And he was... Elena felt it before she turned the corner. A pull, a heat, the unmistakable awareness that he was nearby. Then his voice came from behind her, soft but commanding. Come with me. No explanation, no question, just that deep, steady tone that made her heartbeat stutter. She followed. He led her not to his office, not to the dining hall, but to a private indoor terrace, warm, light spilling over marble floors, ivy climbing the walls, and the night sky stretching across the glass ceiling like painted velvet. It was beautiful, but he wasn't looking at the room. He was looking at her. Elena, he said quietly, sit. She hesitated. Something in his eyes was different today. Controlled, yes, but calmer, clearer, less like a storm and more like the moment before thunder. She sat. Dante remained standing, hands behind his back, shoulders tense, jawline hard, enough to cut stone. He looked like a man fighting an entire war in silence. Finally he spoke. You almost died. The words weren't angry. They were raw. And His voice caught for the briefest second. I couldn't... He exhaled sharply, frustrated with himself. You should have never been alone. Her chest tightened. Dante, it wasn't your fault. Yes, he said quietly, it was. He stepped closer, one step, then another, until he was standing right in front of her, looking down with eyes filled with something she couldn't name. You don't understand, he continued. That moment, when I saw you sinking, I felt... His jaw flexed. Fear. The word sounded foreign coming from him. Unbelievable. Impossible. Dante Romano didn't feel fear. He caused it, But there he was, admitting it to her like a confession burned out of his soul. Her voice softened. "Why are you telling me this?" He leaned down, placing his hands on either side of her, trapping her gently but completely. "Because tonight you're going to answer a question for me." His breath brushed her cheek, warm and steady. "A question that decides everything." Her pulse thundered. "What question?" He lifted her chin with 2 fingers, slow, deliberate, respectful, yet possessive. "Do you trust me, Elena?" The air froze. Not "do you like me?" "Do you not want to stay here?" Not "are you afraid of me?" Trust, a word too intimate, too dangerous, too binding. She swallowed. I don't know." His eyes darkened. Not with anger, but something deeper. A bruise of vulnerability and longing twisted together. "Then let me show you something." He stood upright and offered his hand. "Come." Her heart pounded as she placed her hand in his. He led her to the center of the terrace, moonlight glowing over them like silver dust. "Close your eyes," he said softly. She hesitated, but did it. A moment passed, then another. Then she felt it. His hand brushing her jaw, his breath warming her lips, his voice whispering against her skin. "If you truly don't trust me, pull away." She didn't move. Slowly, like he was giving her every chance to deny him, Dante lowered his mouth to hers. The kiss wasn't hungry. It wasn't commanding. It was gentle. Devastatingly gentle. A question, not an order. A promise, not a claim. Her hands trembled. Her breath caught. Her heart shattered open. She didn't pull away. When he finally broke the kiss, his voice was barely a whisper. "That," he said, "was your answer." And in that moment, Elena realized something terrifying and beautiful. She trusted the one man she should run from. And he knew it. He hadn't wanted to feel. He didn't allow himself to care. Yet here he was, heart thundering, gaze locked on her every move, every breath, every subtle shift in posture. The warmth of her had burned itself into him, an ignition he couldn't snuff, a pull he couldn't deny. He watched her walk across the terrace, careful and deliberate, and for the first time, Dante realized he couldn't take his eyes off her. Not for a second. Every instinct screamed. She was his, dangerous, intoxicating, and untouchable, yet somehow entirely his. Elena felt it too, that awareness of him, always near, always observing. It should have been unsettling, but somehow in the strange gravity of his presence, it felt like protection. She didn't want to admit it. She shouldn't have admitted it. And yet, every time he was near, every glance or subtle movement, her pulse betrayed her. Dante moved silently, following her as she explored the mansion's atrium. Not intrusively, not in the way of a stalker, but with the constant, undeniable awareness of a predator tracking his prey. Only, she wasn't prey. Not really. She was the spark that ignited him, the chaos he wanted and feared. He found himself watching her while she drank her morning tea, the delicate way her fingers wrapped around the cup, how the sunlight kissed her hair, how the faint tremor in her shoulders made his chest clench. It wasn't enough to merely keep her safe anymore. He wanted to own the moment, to imprint her in every part of his world. "She's dangerous," he murmured to himself, voice low, almost growl-like. "Not because she's a threat, but because she makes me weak." The obsession had already begun. Silent, creeping, insidious. He had warned himself. He didn't care about many things. He didn't care about people like her. He didn't lose control. And yet, every fiber of him wanted her attention, her presence, her compliance, even if he wouldn't admit it aloud. Meanwhile, Elena moved through the corridors, the echo of her steps a constant reminder that he was always near. Every time she turned a corner, she caught a glimpse of him in the shadows, watching, calculating, waiting. She tried to ignore the shiver his gaze elicited, tried to focus on the normalcy of the morning, tried to convince herself she wasn't captivated by the dark, commanding presence of the man who had saved her life. Yet when she entered the library, she paused. Dante was there. leaning against the mahogany desk, arms crossed, eyes studying her with a weight that made her breath hitch. The air seemed to thicken around him, charged with something dangerous and magnetic. "You shouldn't be wandering alone," he said softly, though not sharply. "Just enough. Enough." To remind her that everything in this estate, including her, was under his scrutiny. I'm fine," she stammered, though her voice trembled slightly. He didn't move immediately, only watched, and in that suspended moment, the power dynamic was undeniable. He didn't ask her to stay. He didn't demand it. He simply imposed it with his presence. Elena realized, with a shiver she didn't entirely understand, that she didn't want to leave. And that was exactly what he wanted her to feel. Dante's mind raced, plotting, planning, calculating. Every moment with her was a test of control, of patience, of her trust, of his own restraint. The obsession wasn't conscious yet. Not fully, but it had begun. It would grow. It would consume him, and nothing in his world would ever be the same, because the woman he had saved was no longer just a survivor. She was the center of his every thought, and he was already hers, without a single word confirming it. That she could step back, breathe, claim space, and remind herself that Dante Romano was dangerous, unpredictable, and not to be trusted. She had survived a near-death experience. She could survive this. This pull, this gravity, this intensity that wrapped around her like iron, chains she couldn't see but felt in every nerve. But Dante wasn't giving her space. Not really. Everywhere she went, his presence followed. Not physically always, but emotionally. A glance. From across the room, a subtle step in her direction, a hand resting just slightly too close on the armrest of a chair. The world had narrowed to him, to his gaze, to the silent storm behind his eyes. She resisted. "Don't get used to this," she whispered to herself, as she moved through the morning light of the atrium. "It's temporary. It's his obsession, not mine. I control me." Yet the way he looked at her, the way he studied her, the way his jaw tightened with that possessive tension, made her knees weak despite her own defiance. Dante observed her every move. He had always been meticulous, controlled, careful, and yet she had done something impossible. She had unsettled him. Not with words, not with danger, not with threats, but with a simple human brush of her lips, a soft step into his sphere of influence. He wanted more. But more wasn't just desire. More was possession, obsession, focus, an instinct he had fought his entire life. He was a man who gave orders, who commanded loyalty, who crushed threats. Yet here was Elena, fragile yet defiant, challenging him in a way no one ever had. And that challenge ignited something dangerous in him, a hunger that refused to be ignored. "You think you can resist me?" he murmured quietly as he approached her from behind in the library, tone low, almost amused, but threaded with a warning. Elena flinched but didn't turn. "I'm not thinking about you," she said, trying to sound firm, trying to reclaim control. He stepped closer, close enough that her hair brushed his chest, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off him, intoxicating and suffocating at once. "You're thinking about me," he whispered. "Every breath, every glance, every heartbeat. You're just too stubborn to admit it." Her chest heaved, and she realized her own truth before she wanted to. She was thinking about him, constantly, whether she wanted to or not, whether she admitted it or not. "Stubborn, yes," she said softly. "And I'm not yours?" Dante's lips curved slightly, dangerous. "No, not yet." The tension between them was electric, a taut wire humming with potential energy. Every instinct in her screamed to step back, to flee, to fight. But every instinct in him screamed to pull her closer, to claim her gaze, to mark her attention as his. And yet he didn't, not fully, not yet. Instead, he circled her slowly, like a predator testing its prey, like a man assessing the boundaries of something precious he hadn't earned but was determined to protect. "You don't know how this ends," he said softly. "You think resisting me gives you control. But resistance is only feeding my focus." Her pulse quickened. "Then what happens when I stop resisting?" He stopped, just behind her, close enough for her to feel the heat on the back of her neck, the subtle brush of his sleeve. "Then," he whispered, "I don't think you'll ever want to leave." For the first time, Elena didn't argue, because she already knew. And deep down, in the place she refused to acknowledge, she was terrified and thrilled by that certainty. Dante stepped back finally, just enough to let her think she had space. But the moment hung between them, taut and unbroken, as if the air itself was warning her. Resistance only fueled the obsession, and his obsession had just begun. The mansion was quiet now, almost oppressively so. The staff moved like shadows, careful not to disturb the tension simmering just beneath the surface. Elena couldn't shake the feeling that everything had shifted. The pool, the night, Dante's gaze. That single, terrifying moment when water had closed over her and he had pulled her out alive had changed everything. But now the truth was emerging. Dante entered the library without knocking, eyes dark, jaw tight. She looked up from the papers. She had been pretending to study. Security reports, guest lists, anything to distract herself from the pulse in her chest whenever he was near. "Sit," he said. The word wasn't a command. It was inevitability. She obeyed. He placed a folder in front of her, heavy, intimidating. The label read, "Pool Incident. Surveillance and Analysis." "This wasn't an accident," he said flatly, tone calm, but carrying that underlying edge she had come to fear and crave. She swallowed. It couldn't have been. Someone was careless, maybe. He slammed the folder open. Pages and photos spilled across the polished desk. Frames from cameras, security guard logs, the pool area at night. Her own fall was captured in blurry, chilling detail, but what froze her was the final frame. Someone, masked, lingering near the edge just before she slipped. "You were targeted," Dante said, voice low, "and not randomly." Her stomach twisted. "Why me?" He leaned closer, eyes scanning her face like he could read every fear, every thought, every instinct. "Because whoever did this knew exactly who you were, and what you would mean to me." Her pulse jumped. "Me? What are you saying?" "I'm saying," he whispered, leaning back just enough to let the weight of his words settle, "that the person who tried to drown you isn't finished. And they underestimated one thing. Me." Her hands trembled as she touched the edge of the desk. "Underestimated you?" Dante's lips curved slightly, dangerously, almost with amusement. "They didn't know I don't lose. What's mine? They didn't know I would find them before they find you." Elena swallowed hard. "I'm not yours." "You're not?" He leaned closer, eyes like storm clouds, dark and unyielding. "Then why do I care? So much that someone hurt you? Why did I see red the moment I learned what happened?" She met his gaze, heart hammering. "Because you care." "Yes," he admitted softly, almost painfully. "Because I care. And because anyone who touches you, accidentally or not, crosses me." Her lips parted. "You mean they did this to me on purpose?" "Yes." His tone was absolute. "They wanted to test me, to see if I'd react. They didn't think I would." She shivered, not from the memory of cold water this time, but from the raw intensity of the man before her. "And now?" He leaned forward, hand brushing over the folder, fingers grazing her own. "Now, we find them. And when we do..." His eyes darkened. "They will regret ever stepping into my world." She swallowed, the thrill of fear mixed with the heat rising through her chest. Dante was ruthless, and tonight, his ruthlessness was directed toward anyone who dared touch her. She realized something terrifying. This was more than protection. This was possession. And as she looked up at him, she understood. The man who had saved her from drowning was now obsessed obsessed with keeping her safe, obsessed with claiming her attention, obsessed with her. Her pulse raced. Her stomach churned. Her heart, stubborn, defiant, alive, was his now, whether she wanted it or not. And Dante Romano would stop at nothing to prove it. Elena tried to sleep, but the mansion had become a labyrinth of tension. Every creak in this hallway, every distant echo of a footstep made her pulse race. Her mind replayed Dante's words over and over. They wanted to test me. They didn't think I would. And now she understood the depth of what he meant. It started with a subtle shift, a shadow moving too quickly outside her window, a gust of cold air, despite the mansion's warmth. Then a faint sound in the garden, just enough to make her sit, upright, heart hammering. She wasn't imagining it. Dante entered her room without warning. His presence filled the space immediately, the air thick, with tension and warmth. He didn't speak at first. He simply closed the door, eyes scanning, every inch of her like he was cataloging every possible threat. "You heard it too," he said quietly, voice low and deliberate. I think so," she admitted. "But it could be—" "It's not could be," he interrupted, stepping closer, shadowing her every movement. "They're here." Her breath caught. "Who?" He didn't answer. Not immediately. Instead, he walked to the window and peered out, the faint moonlight reflecting in his dark eyes. "Someone wanted to see if I'd protect you. They're making sure we know they're watching." She felt a shiver she couldn't control. "Why are they doing this to me?" "Because you matter," he said, finally turning toward her. His eyes locked on hers, intense, unyielding. "Because anyone who threatens you threatens me, and I don't forgive threats." Her stomach twisted. The cold that had once gripped her in the pool now surged through her chest, not from fear of water, but from the heat of Dante's intensity. He stepped closer, close enough that she felt his warmth brushing against her arm. "You won't be alone," he whispered. "Not tonight. Not ever again if I can help it." Her voice trembled, trying to mask the thrill in her chest. "But I don't even know what they want. They want to test my limits," he said, voice dropping to a dangerous murmur. "They want to see if anyone can take what's mine." She looked at him, heart pounding. "What does that mean for me?" "It means," he said softly, darkly, "that tonight I make sure you're untouchable, and anyone who thinks otherwise will regret it." Before she could respond, a sound came from the garden again, a sharp, deliberate footstep. Elena froze. Dante was already moving, every muscle taut, his instincts razor-sharp. He grabbed her hand and pulled her behind a heavy curtain, shielding her from the window. His eyes scanned the grounds, calculating, predicting, preparing for whatever was coming. "They're close," he murmured, barely audible, voice low and urgent. "Too close." Her chest heaved. I'm scared." "You should be," he admitted, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "But not because of them." "Because of me." Her brow furrowed. "Because of you?" "Yes," he said, voice firm but soft. "Because I won't let anyone touch you. And if they try, I'll make them wish they were never born." The words sank into her, terrifying, irresistible, protective, possessive, and in that moment, Elena realized the full weight of her new reality. Dante Romano had claimed her, whether she wanted it or not. The warning had become real, and there was no turning back. The night didn't ease, it tightened. Every second stretched thinner, sharper, more dangerous than the last. Dante kept Elena close, closer than ever, his hand firm around hers as he led her through the dim hallway. Not running, not hiding. Moving with a predator's precision. She could feel the tension coiling in him, the violence simmering underneath his calm. "What are we doing?" Elena whispered, trying to match his quiet steps. "Positioning," Dante murmured. "If they want to test me, let them come close enough to regret it." His voice wasn't raised, but the promise in it was lethal. They reached the central stairwell, wide stone steps, chandeliers glowing faintly overhead. Dante stopped, one hand going to the gun holstered beneath his jacket. His jaw clenched, eyes scanning every shadow. Elena swallowed, her pulse hammering in her ears. She felt exposed, vulnerable, yet somehow safer behind him than she had felt anywhere else. "Stay behind me," he said softly. "I am," she whispered. His eyes flicked back at her, not annoyed, but acknowledging, checking, making sure she truly was there, that she hadn't been taken from him already. Then, a sound, not loud, just a shift of weight on wood, but enough. Dante moved faster than she thought humanly possible, pushing her gently but firmly behind one of the tall marble columns. His body shielded hers completely, his breath steady against her cheek as he leaned out to survey the shadows below. Someone was in the mansion, inside, not outside anymore. Her throat tightened. "Dante!" "Quiet," he breathed. For a moment there was only silence. Then, a figure darted across the lower hall, dressed in black, face hidden, not approaching, not fleeing, watching, taunting. Dante's entire posture changed, controlled anger melting into something far more dangerous. "So they're bold tonight," he whispered. "Good. Let them be bold." Elena grabbed his sleeve. "Please, don't go down there alone." He turned to her, eyes burning with something she couldn't name. Something fierce, protective, possessive. Something that shook her to her core. "I'm not leaving you," he said, not even for a second. He kept her close as he descended the stairs, slow at first, then faster as another noise echoed through the hall. A scrape, a metallic click, a deliberate warning. The intruder moved again, slipping behind a corner. Not escaping, luring. Dante exhaled sharply. Her hand was still wrapped in his. He didn't let go, not once. "You feel that?" he asked quietly. She shivered. "Feel what?" "Their message." She nodded, voice trembling. "What's the message?" "That they think I can be distracted." His grip tightened around her hand. "They think you make me weak." Elena's heart twisted. "Do I?" He stopped walking. The hallway was dim, candles flickering along the walls, shadows dancing across his face. He turned toward her, stepping close enough that she felt the heat pouring off him. "No," he said, voice low and certain. "You don't make me weak." His hand lifted to her cheek. "You make me focused." Her breath hitched. "And because of you," he whispered. "Someone's about to die tonight." Before she could respond, a flash of movement appeared behind them, fast. Dante spun, pulling her into his chest as something sharp whistled through the air and embedded itself in the wall behind her. A knife, thrown with intent to kill. Elena gasped. Dante's arm wrapped tighter around her, shielding her completely. His other hand pulled his gun free in one smooth, furious motion. "That was your last mistake," he growled into the shadows. Footsteps retreated, fast, frantic, down the hallway. Dante didn't chase, not yet. He turned to her first, lifting her face to his with a gentleness that contradicted the violence in him. "You're alive," he murmured, breath trembling just slightly. "That's all that matters." Her voice cracked. "They tried to kill me." "They failed," he whispered. And then darker, more dangerous. "They won't get another chance." Dante didn't speak as he entered the dim interrogation room. The flickering fluorescent lights painted shadows across his sharp features, shadows that seemed almost alive with menace. Elena followed quietly, her heart still hammering from the close call in the hallway. This was his world, and tonight she was seeing the full extent of it. 2 men were already restrained, captured intruders, masked, defiant, thinking they could challenge him. They hadn't seen the storm that was about to descend. "Sit," Dante commanded, voice low, calm, but with an edge sharp enough to cut glass. The intruders exchanged nervous glances. They hadn't expected the boss to appear in person. Not like this. Not with that aura of controlled violence. "You made a mistake," Dante said, stepping into the light, letting his presence fill the room. "Thinking you could test me." One of them sneered. "You don't scare me." Dante's eyes flickered with something dangerous, slow building, a predator's recognition that the moment had arrived. His jaw tightened. And then he leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper that carried the weight of death itself. "You almost killed someone I care about." The words landed like a physical blow, not a threat, a promise. Elena's chest tightened as she watched. His entire being radiated control, possession, obsession, and fury, raw, unfiltered fury. "I don't care why," Dante continued. "I don't care how clever you think you are. You touched her. And now you pay." The intruders tried to remain defiant. Dante smiled, but not warmly. It was a predator's smile. Calm, slow, precise, terrifying. "You see?" he said, pacing slowly around them, letting every syllable sink. "You underestimated me. You underestimated what it means to cross me, to touch what I protect." Elena couldn't tear her eyes away. She had seen his tenderness, his obsession, his possessive streak, but this was something else, something terrifying and intoxicating. Dante stopped directly in front of the first intruder, close enough that the man could feel the heat radiating from him. "I saved her life," Dante said quietly. "But make no mistake, you tried to take it. And anyone who tries to take from me, I don't forgive." The intruder swallowed hard. Dante leaned even closer, enough for his words to graze the man's ear. "I protect what's mine, and I mark it, permanently." A bead of sweat ran down the intruder's temple. Dante turned, slow, deliberate, toward the second intruder. His hand moved, brushing along the side of the man's neck, not touching him in a casual way, but letting him feel the potential for harm. "You wanted to see how I'd react," Dante whispered, voice low, lethal. "Now you know. And you will remember it forever." He stepped back, letting the weight of his presence and words settle. Elena's breath trembled. She realized, more than ever, that Dante's obsession with her wasn't just protection. It was possessive, dangerous, absolute. The intruders sat frozen, shaking, not just with fear, but with the understanding that they had been marked, that they had entered a world ruled by a man who didn't forgive mistakes, and who didn't hesitate when the stakes involved someone he claimed. Dante's eyes softened, almost imperceptibly as he looked at Elena. "You're safe," he murmured, voice quieter now. Gentle again, but carrying the weight of all he had just unleashed. She nodded, swallowing hard. Her pulse still raced, but she knew the truth. She was his, and he would stop at nothing to ensure she remained untouched, unharmed. He turned back to the intruders. "And anyone who thinks differently will learn the consequences, slowly and painfully." Elena shivered. A mix of fear, thrill, and undeniable attraction coursed through her. She understood now. His rage was terrifying. His obsession was real, and she was at the center of it. The mansion was quiet, almost eerily so. The intruders had been taken care of, restrained, questioned, and reminded in ways that only Dante Romano knew how. Elena had witnessed a side of him that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Yet here, in the aftermath, the intensity between them had not faded. If anything, it had grown. Dante guided her to the terrace again. Moonlight spilled across the floor, illuminating her face, catching the subtle trembling of her hands. His gaze followed every movement, calculating, protective, possessive. Every step she took felt measured under his watchful eyes. "You've seen a part of me no one else ever does," he said quietly, voice soft yet carrying a weight that made her stomach tighten. "And you're still here." She swallowed, unsure how to respond. I don't know why I'm still here, or why I want to." "Bah." He stepped closer, eyes dark, intense, pulling her into his orbit. "Because you can't run from what's real, Elena. Not from me, not from us." Her breath hitched. The way he said us. The possessive undertone was undeniable. Her pulse quickened, a dangerous flutter she couldn't ignore. "You're obsessed with me," she said, almost a whisper. "I can feel it in the way you watch me, in the way you move, in the way you won't let anyone near me." Dante's jaw tightened, a faint shadow crossing his features. Then he leaned down just slightly, so close she could feel the warmth radiating off him. "Obsessed?" he murmured. "No, this isn't obsession. It's knowing. Knowing that I can't let you go, that I won't let you go. Her chest tightened. You don't even know me, she whispered. And yet you— I know enough, he interrupted, voice dropping, almost trembling. I know enough to understand that someone who almost died in my arms, someone I saved, isn't just a stranger. You've taken a part of me I can't give back. Her stomach knotted. Her heart pounded. She didn't know what to say, didn't know what to do. All she knew was that she was acutely aware of every inch of space between them. Why me? She asked, barely audible. Why care this much? Dante's eyes softened, and for the first time, she saw something beyond rage and control, something vulnerable, something raw. Because the moment I saw you sink beneath that water, he said, voice low, intimate, I realized I would do anything to protect you. Not because I have to, because I want to. Not because it's my job, because it's my choice, and it's already too late. I can't stop myself anymore. Elena's breath caught. She could feel the pull, magnetic and dangerous, the intensity of him, drawing her closer despite her own defenses. He took a slow step forward, and another, until the space between them was impossibly small. She could feel his heartbeat against her chest, could feel the heat of him seeping into her. Do you understand what I'm saying? He asked, voice rough with emotion. That I won't let you go, that I'll protect you, obsess over you, claim you if I have to. Her lips parted. I think I do. His hand lifted slowly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. A touch gentle enough to contradict the danger lurking beneath it. I'm not perfect, he said quietly. I won't always be gentle. I won't always be calm. But I will always be here, always. Her pulse thundered. She wanted to say something, anything, but the words failed. Instead, she leaned just slightly closer. Dante's eyes darkened. He lowered his forehead to hers, his voice a whisper now, trembling, with both desire and confession. I can't fight this, he admitted. I don't want to fight it. I want you, all of you, every part. You've awakened something in me, something I've never felt before, and I'll never let it go. Elena felt it too. The pull, the surrender, the dangerous, intoxicating certainty that she was already his in ways neither of them could resist. And in that moment, they were closer than ever, closer than danger, closer than fear, closer than anyone else would ever be allowed to come. Because in this world, theirs was the only truth that mattered. The night outside the Romano estate was quiet, too quiet. A stillness that felt like the world itself was holding its breath, waiting, watching, sensing the moment everything would shift. Inside, the air hummed with tension. Elena stood in the center of Dante's private office, her fingers trembling around the edges of a small velvet box he had placed in her hands. She hadn't opened it yet. She didn't need to. She could feel the weight of the moment before she ever saw what was inside. Across from her, Dante Romano watched her with an expression she had never seen before. Raw, unmasked, stripped of every wall he had ever used to protect himself. The man feared nothing, but right now, he feared her answer. His voice was low, steady, but edged with something rare for him, vulnerability. Open it, Piccola. I need you to see what I'm offering, and what I'm asking. Elena inhaled shakily, lifting the lid. Inside lay a single ring. Simple, elegant, but heavy with meaning. Not a proposal. Not yet. But a symbol, a choice, a promise. Her breath caught. Dante, I don't know if I'm ready for what this means. He stepped closer, gently taking the box from her hand and closing it. This isn't about readiness. It's about truth. His thumb brushed her cheek. You changed me. That night at the pool, I was a man made of ice, and you melted every frozen piece of me, without even trying. He leaned his forehead to hers. And now I can't go back. Her heart pounded. She remembered the cold water swallowing her, the panic, the darkness. Then his arms pulling her back into the world, his voice ordering her to breathe. His warmth reviving her. His mouth on hers, desperate, fierce, terrified of losing her. That was the moment everything changed, for him, for her. But letting him in fully, accepting his world, his power, his darkness, that was a different kind of leap. Elena stepped back, folding her shaking hands together. You want to protect me, Dante, but being with you means danger, violence, blood. I've already watched you kill for me. His jaw tightened. And I'll do it again, every time, without hesitation. That's exactly what scares me. He closed his eyes for a moment, pain flickering across his face like a shadow. Elena, I'm not asking you to become part of my war. He opened his eyes, gaze steady. I'm asking you to trust that I will always keep you out of it. Tears blurred her vision. And what if something happens to you? He smiled softly, sadly. Then I'll fight my way back, to you, every damn time. Silence stretched between them, thick with everything unsaid, everything felt. Finally, Elena stepped forward. Slowly, deliberately. She placed her hands on his chest, feeling the steady, powerful heartbeat beneath her palms. That night, she whispered, when you saved me, I thought I was drowning in water. Her voice trembled. But the truth is, I was drowning in you. His breath hitched. And I didn't want to be saved. Dante froze, every muscle tightening as if he were holding himself back from crushing her into his arms. Elena, don't say that unless you mean it. She looked up at him, eyes clear, voice steady now. I choose you. The words broke him. He pulled her against him, lifting her off the ground in a fierce, breathless embrace. His mouth found hers instantly, hungry, desperate, almost shaking with relief. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was a claim, a surrender, a beginning. When he finally pulled back, his voice was a low promise against her lips. Then hear me clearly, amore. From this moment on, your life is mine, and I will guard it with every breath I have left. Elena smiled against his mouth. I know. And for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She was home. And if this journey stirred something in you, if you felt Elena's fear, her courage, her surrender, if Dante's obsession, his devotion, his transformation made your heart race just a little, then don't let this story end here. Hit subscribe now. Stay with us. Because more worlds like this are waiting. More danger, more desire, more breathless moments that pull you in and refuse to let go. Every week we dive deeper into love that's fierce. Men who would burn the world to protect the one they choose. And women who discover their strength in the most unexpected places. So, if you're ready for the next heartbeat, the next confession, the next kiss that changes everything,